Good evening, everybody. Schwansan, welcome back from Antaiji. I think it was quite cold in Antaiji. I think they still have snow. I saw some pictures of the campfire, but there were still areas of snow around the campfire. Even in Osaka, the cherry blossoms have just reached full bloom. Usually they are 1 week, sometimes even 2 weeks earlier than this year. Usually this is the time where the cherry blossoms finally bloom in Antaiji, but I think this year the sakura are not blooming in Antaiji yet. So compared to normal years, this year is a kind of cold year. But we don't have to worry about the weather right now. Today is one of these weeks where I will talk about Sawaki Roshi's quotes from this book to you. But before that, let's sit together for half an hour. Thank you for joining. So today I want to speak about Sawaki Roshi's quotes from To You Again. Have we arrived at chapter 10? I think so. Usually I prepare before I start, but today I was kind of busy, so I didn't prepare, but I think I finished with chapter 9 last time. That would mean we are on page 53, chapter 10. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If anybody knows where I am, please correct me. But I think we start with chapter 10 today. The title is To You Who Wants to Begin with Zazen. And starting with this chapter, Sawaki Roshi concentrates on the practice of sitting, which is good because that's what we all share. Before that, he was talking about more general things which are also nice to relate to. He was talking about delusion in our daily lives, trying to collect points, being better than the others, always comparing yourself. But now it's all connected to Zazen. And basically the point he makes is often when we practice Zazen and we pretend to do that because we don't want to be part of the game or the rat race, as some people say. We start to practice Zazen, but maybe, hopefully, after a couple of months, years, we realize actually we're still playing the same game. We're trying to be better than the others with our Zen practice, with our Kensho experiences, with the koans we solved, or with the full lotus posture that we can sit in now. But let me start with the first quote in chapter 10. In the world you'll find all kinds of rewards. But is there any reward that could make you happier than settling your bottom onto your sitting cushion and having the privilege to practice Zazen? Often Sawaki Roshi is kind of, how do you say, pretty harsh and direct, criticizing us, pointing the fingers at us. But here is one of those fewer quotes maybe where he's very positive. Isn't it a great privilege to be able to just sit? What I call taking a break from the game. What could be a greater privilege to have the opportunity to just put your behind on a cushion and sit for 30 minutes, and you don't have to gain anything. You don't do it to get a reward in the future, but these 30 minutes in itself are the reward that you get. 30 minutes and you don't have to achieve anything. You can just be. Isn't that the greatest thing? And the next one. If you prefer to believe in this or that other sect, go and follow them. Only those who really want to practice Zazen should do so. What is Zazen good for? Zazen is good for absolutely nothing. Here's this famous quote from Sawaki Roshi. What is Zazen good for? Zazen is good for absolutely nothing. Dōgen Zenji had something against large numbers of followers. He said they're like flies and worms. They're nothing compared to a single dragon or a single elephant. That's why Zen monks are also called dragons and elephants. So it's not about the numbers, it's not about the amount of followers you have or the amount of members that your Sangha has. It's not about the quantity, it's about Dōgen Zenji in one text he also talks about raising one or even only a half person, which is a funny expression. How could be anything like a half person, a half practitioner? But basically what Dōgen Zenji wants to say here, it's not about numbers. It's not that 10 people would be better than 5 and 100 would be much better than 10. It's, the question is, if you have 10, is there one or maybe even half a genuine practitioner in there? And even if there's one in those 10, if you're not that one person, if you're not that one person, or that half person, at least that half person, what good is there in, well, sorry. The same is true for, like, the teacher. I think it was last Sunday, not yesterday, but the Sunday before, when we were meeting in the park in Osaka, and after Zazen we had this Hanami party where we were watching the cherry blossoms. They hadn't really opened at that point, or they had just begun to open. So it was a little bit early. Anyway, we had this party on Sunday, and one of the practitioners there, Japanese, he asked me, you often seem to be critical of the Dalai Lama. I don't know when I ever said anything bad about the Dalai Lama. But well, maybe sometimes I'm a little bit, I say ironic things about people that are very proud of themselves because they met the Dalai Lama, they've seen the Dalai Lama, they attended a talk by the Dalai Lama, maybe they even took a picture of themselves with the Dalai Lama. So basically what I said is, I'm not critical of the Dalai Lama. There's nothing wrong with the Dalai Lama. It's just that I'm critical of these people that attach a special value to the Dalai Lama. Well, the point is, it's not about how many gurus and how many enlightened masters you met, how many enlightened monks you know. The question is, are you a genuine practitioner of the way? Are you at least half a practitioner? That's the question. It's not about the numbers of followers you have, and it's also not about the numbers of teachers you have and the numbers of masters that gave you Dharma transmission. Even sometimes you find these people that have, I don't know, Dharma transmission from 3 different teachers, and they're really proud of that. It's really not about the number of certificates that you have. It's not that 3 Dharma transmissions would be better than 1. But sometimes people actually seem to believe that. So it's not about the numbers. And the reason why he includes this famous quote here, what is Zazen good for? Zazen is good for absolutely nothing. It's because that's, in a way, it would be easy to attract people to Zen if you say, Zazen is good for your health and it will make you a more efficient worker. You will be better at your job when you practice. It will help you to be a better father or mother at home. And hopefully it will also get you to enlightenment. You can become a Buddha if you practice. And if not in this lifetime, at least you will improve your karma and will have a better rebirth. If you promise people these things, then they come. And there's nothing that would be, well, less attractive than telling them you can sit for 30 years and still it's good for nothing. But the reason Sawaki Roshi insists that Zazen is good for nothing is because then you get this one or maybe only half a person that's really willing to give everything, not in the hope of a reward in the future, but just for the reward of being able to sit for half an hour. And it's good for nothing because sitting itself is the reward, the highest reward that you could possibly expect. Let's do one more. The first quote on page 54 goes like this. Once there were 500 monkeys in the service of 500 Buddhist arhats. And arhats in Theravada Buddhism is a monk who has basically attained the highest stage of enlightenment. In Zen, we would say basically it's a Buddha. It's a completely enlightened being, an arhat. And 5 monkeys were serving these 5 arhats. One day, the monkeys decided to mimic everything the arhats did. So people say monkeys are very good at imitating, and that's what these monkeys did with the arhats. They mimicked everything that the enlightened monks did. So they did Zazen, copying them with their eyes, noses, mouths, and whole bodies. They say that in this way 1,000 arhats practiced Zazen and realized awakening. In the beginning it was 500 arhats and 500 monkeys, but now it was 1,000. You couldn't see the difference anymore. This is why it's my wish to preserve, even if it's only through imitation, the seed of Zazen. This quote might seem a little bit confusing for some. Because, I mean, even if those 500 monkeys imitated the monks, it's not about the outward posture. It's not about the expression of the faces. The monks were enlightened, while the monkeys only pretended to be enlightened. They only copied the outward posture. But especially for Dōgen, so Soto Zen, and maybe there's also connection to yoga there. You can't really make a distinction between what we would call the outward posture and the inward aspect of that. You can't draw a line between the physical aspect and the conscious aspect. They are like two sides of a coin. So if you copy the Buddha 100%, if it's a 100% imitation, you are the Buddha. There's no extra somehow mental thing that also needs to be implanted in there. If your life from morning to night, physically, the eyes, nose, everything, the face, the speech, if it's 100% copy of the Buddha, you are the Buddha. Dōgen would say practice and enlightenment are one. So even a monkey, if he's 100% copying an arhat, there's no difference. It's not that the arhat would have something extra that the monkey doesn't have. It's 100% practice. Okay, so much from my side for the time being. As always, if you have things that you would like to ask or share, please feel welcome to do so. Any questions? Anything that you would like to share? Nothing? No questions?
Okay, nothing.
Nothing?
There's, yeah, some line comes to my mind. I just listened to it not long time ago. A Swedish metal band, and the line is "Nothing is more real than nothing." It's from the song "Nothing is More Real" from Wolf
Hmm.
Brigade or Wolf Brigade. Uh,
Wolfsbrigade. Oh,
I had when I heard it first time, I had to think of Sawaki's quote because, like, it sounds like he's telling that Zazen is like good for nothing, but
yes.
nothing is something special, you know.
Yeah. So here, I think the quote appears several times in this book, and at another occasion he says, Zazen is good for nothing, but as long as you don't practice this Zazen, that is good for nothing. It's really good for nothing. So Zazen is good for nothing, but especially that's what makes it important. So if you practice a form of Zazen that's good for something, then Sawaki would say that's really good for nothing, but in a different sense. You're wasting your time. While if you sit for 30 minutes, the Zazen, that's good for nothing. You don't expect a reward from what you do. That's the highest reward that you can get. If you spend the same 30 minutes hoping to get something in the future, what a waste. What a waste. You're wasting these 30 minutes with this expectation for some piece of candy in the form of a Kensho or Satori or whatever. And you forget the highest reward that you can possibly get, which is now, here, in this moment, the practice in this moment.
I think it is I think it is even interesting to maybe consider the analogy of the monkeys and the arhats and reverse it, and to think maybe, if 500 arhats acted like monkeys, then there would be 1,000 monkeys. And
Exactly.
it is actually the practice itself that is important, and not at all the label of arhat or monkey. And to
Exactly.
consider both analogies is fun. And
Yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Like it's often said in Zen or in Mahayana Buddhism, we are all Buddhas. And at the same time, we are deluded beings. So is it the same or is it different? Well, the difference is in our daily lives. Sometimes it feels really, I don't know if I should say it feels like this, but you don't have any doubt about this is the practice of a Buddha. But more often than not, just what you said, we are Buddhas that imitate a deluded being. It's not that we are deluded beings that are very far from Buddhahood, but a Buddha that's mimicking a monkey. That's often what we do in our daily lives. And the good news is you can always stop. Right now is the time to stop pretending you're a monkey. So yeah, that's actually I never thought about it, but yeah, it's what you said is it's a good point. Like what Sawaki Roshi said, it's easy to interpret it. Oh, I'm this monkey, but I need to mimic the Buddha. But maybe we should think about it in the opposite way. I'm a Buddha that has pretended to be a monkey all the time. Why? Why do I imitate the monkey?
And then interesting thing as well, I find, is sometimes we can, experience something in meditation, in Zazen, and we will consider, oh, maybe I am now enlightened, or you might consider I have attained the first jhana or something,
Yes,
where you
yes,
think
yes.
you think something, and you know that in that very instant you you have immediately, now you are out of the practice and you are not the monkey,
Exactly.
and to yeah, to realize that
Yes, yes.
yeah, the practice, I'm not sure which Zen master, I'm sure many Zen masters have said this, but to realize that practice is enlightenment, enlightenment is practice,
Mm,
and they are inseparable. And I really like that, your analogy of two sides of the coin. If you know, like a monkey,
mm,
if we mimic and act in the exact way of a Buddha, then we are a Buddha. But the instant we stop, even if you are a Buddha,
mm,
like
mm,
Buddha is not a state which we attain and
mm.
become fixed in. It is never a fixed state in itself. It is always there and
Correct.
available to us. But do
Mm.
we maintain that, or do we not? Is a question.
But then what is practice compared to not practicing? I wonder.
What is practice compared to not practicing? In the context of the quotes that we talked about today, doing something for a reward, for example, trying to collect points, trying to be better than the others, kind of chasing that famous carrot, being like a donkey that's chasing a carrot. That's the way we lead our lives a lot of the time. And the difference to practice would be to just do what you do, completely be in there and not do it for something else. So in the case of Zazen, when you do Zazen, you just sit. Or one step further, you allow Zazen to sit. You don't do Zazen, but you allow Zazen to sit there. When you do the dishes, you just do the dishes. Or you could even say you allow the dishes to do the dishes. When you work, you allow the work to happen. You don't do it so that you get your paycheck at the end of the month. That would be one difference between practice and not practice. To just allow the activity to happen right now, or you have to force yourself to do it because you want to get this or that from it.
But isn't that also kind of like getting rid of something? And that's a little bit like trying to get rid of your intention to gain something, right? But at other points you said it's not so much about not letting that happen, not letting the thoughts arise, but to watch them. So I wonder what the difference is between that kind of recognition that there are intentions and thoughts while recognizing the rest and being caught up in the thoughts. There must be some kind of difference.
Well, the difference is what you just said. In the one case, you just watch the clouds appearing and disappearing without trying to stop them. And in the other case, you're caught, you're floating with the clouds. You're lost in the clouds. Um, for example, in the case of an emotion or a thought, it's one thing to notice, oh, there is this emotion, fear, hate, anger, or there's this thought appearing there. And it's another thing to be a kind of object of this, to be absorbed in that, and you don't even notice that you're thinking because you're already reacting on that thought. So these are, at least to me, these are two different things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
A comment I had on that, and a reflection that I found very helpful in my meditations is to consider when thoughts arise, and to consider, who is the thinker, who is the one that is thinking. Is it me that's thinking? And it comes back to that relationship we have to our minds. Like, do we actually understand this mind? Is this mind, the kind of the understanding that the nature of the eyes is to see, that's its function. The nature of the ears is to listen, that's its function. The ears are made to listen. The mouth is made to taste. The nose is made to smell. And so also the mind's function is to think. So thinking itself is not the problem. The mind's function is to think. That is what it does, in the same way that the eyes see, the ears hear, the nose smell. But are we the thoughts? Are we the mind? Are we the mind itself that thinks? And in that contemplation, oftentimes there's nothing left. and that's a very interesting space to sit in. And I don't know what it is, because as soon as you try to think about what it is, again, you have become the mind. So it's an interesting reflection, but just that moment of, who thought that? Think you are at peace, and that is not peace, for there is no peace in thinking, something like that.
Okay.
Anything else that you would like to ask or share?
Well, can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we talked about expectations and that the practice might be good for something. And I think I have a lot of curiosity with the practice. And I wonder what's the difference between curiosity and expectations. And when I think about it, I'm curious about what happens when I'm on the cushion or on the Zen path, but I don't expect while I'm on the cushion anything special to be happening or anything. I think I have to leave this curiosity during the practice, but for getting started to become motivated, I think curiosity might be helpful.
Yeah, I think curiosity is very important. In German, the word for curiosity is Neugier, which means, Gier means greed. Neu means something new, greed for something new. And that sounds very un-Buddhist. But I think curiosity is really important well, it's something childlike. Your eyes are open, your ears are open, everything you discover is kind of new and you want to discover. So often people, probably nobody among you, but a lot of people have this idea. Meditation means to shut your eyes. You don't listen to anything outside there. If there's noises, the best thing is to put on your headphones and listen to some shakuhachi music. Because what you want to do is you want to kind of focus on your insides. Or you want to calm down, you want to chill. And of course, that's not the case. You're curious about meditation, and also, although Zazen is supposedly good for nothing, at least in my case, Zazen has also made me more curious about the world. What's actually happening around there? About the 10,000 things that Dōgen Zenji talks about. Before I started with Zazen, I wasn't really so interested in the 10,000 things out there. Now I'm much more curious, and I think that's important. And as you said, it's not the same as kind of expecting a reward. You're curious because, like Thich Nhat Hanh, the famous Thich Nhat Hanh, he said, there's this word, interbeing that I invented, it should be in the dictionary. But I don't know if Thich Nhat Hanh didn't know or if he only pretended to not know. But interbeing basically is the same as interest. In Latin means interbeing. So curiosity and interest also have something to do. If you realize we exist through interbeing, then you become more interested in the world, because what you see outside there, that's you. It's also part of you that you can discover. So basically, yes, curiosity is important, and you should be curious about meditation, and also meditation should make you more curious about your life and the world as a whole. There's nothing wrong with being curious.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I can relate to that, what you said. The curiosity about the world and the people around me grew because I'm not afraid of the world. I'm not afraid of the people who might come to my practice anymore, to the work practice, because I'm a psychologist. And when I first started, I just wanted children to come to me and visit me for work, because I knew how to relate to children, but I didn't know how to relate to adults. And I was kind of afraid how to work with adults. And when I started Zazen practice very intensely, I noticed how my anxiety or fear about working with adults really has gone down. So now I'm only working with other adults, as I have my 2 teachers, children at home. So I don't need any children at work. And I really enjoy all those different kind of adults coming to me and sharing their lives with me. It's really a good reward, even if you said Zazen is good for nothing. But this, I can say, yes, my Zazen practice helped me a lot to become a psychologist who's not anxious about whoever comes, whatever problem they might have, whatever life situation, even cancer, losing someone or anything else. It's just, I'm curious what's happening in this person's life and what's happening with me while the person is talking to me. And well, that's why my life is quite full and interesting.
Great. Anything else you would like to ask or share?
Yes, I'm really happy.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to say I particularly enjoyed this metaphor of the 500 monkeys. Somehow it's very inspiring or something. It just really hit something right for me. And also this discussion about curiosity. So yeah, not a question. I just wanted to share that.
And of course, it also has to do with this story of Sawaki Roshi practicing Zazen for the first time. So he ran away from home when he was 16. He wanted to become a monk at Eheji, the main temple of the Soto school. But at the time, you couldn't just turn up there at the door and become a monk. So basically, they let him help there as a servant. So as a lay servant. And basically from morning to night, he was ordered around by some elderly lady. And after a while, finally, he got a day off. And Sawaki Roshi didn't really know what to do on his day off. So he decided, I'm going to sit in Zazen in my room. Or he didn't have his own room. He was sitting somewhere in a storage room. And the old lady that was usually ordering him around, she had to do some business. She opened the door, saw him sitting in Zazen, and was bowing deeply. And Sawaki Roshi says at that time, for the first time, he realized, well, what Zazen is all about. And also, I could imagine that some people say, well, isn't that something superficial that you do Zazen and people prostrate that's not why we do Zazen. We don't do Zazen to impress others. But I think the realization that Sawaki Roshi had at that moment, until he was 16, maybe he was like the arhats that had pretending to be a monkey. And sitting down in Zazen, that was the Buddha that finally stopped pretending to be a monkey. But at the time, I don't know your name, but as you said, the Buddha doesn't say, now I feel like a Buddha, I've become a Buddha. Sawaki Roshi, when he sat there, he didn't have the feeling that he was doing anything special. But it was kind of the lady that showed him, I stopped being the monkey. So this kind of experience he had when he was 16 is also kind of an example of practice, this pure practice of just sitting, being one with Buddhahood. It's not that internally you feel, oh, now I feel different, now I got something, I feel closer to Buddha. But you see this sometimes reflected, like for example in the prostration of that old lady that was ordering you around all the time. Okay, any other questions? Anything else you would like to share? If
This was
not, it's
I just
pardon?
I just had a question on I was curious if you did any Japanese versions of this. If you have a Japanese Zoom session, maybe I'll send you an email inquiring on that. But if you do have, I'm curious if
The
you...
short answer is no, this is the only Zoom class I do. I do the Sunday Zazen class, and most people that come to Osaka are Japanese, and after that we do a 2-hour study class, and it's possible to participate in Zoom. There are some people who participate in Zoom, and this study class is in Japanese. So if you're interested in that, you speak Japanese, you can send me an email and I can send you the Zoom link. But it's a little bit different style. I don't know if you know, I also have a Japanese YouTube channel. You can find the past study classes on my Japanese YouTube channel. And if you want to participate in that, that would be possible. Okay, it's already 9:10, so I would like to thank you once more, and especially Schwanzan for hosting us. Next week I'm gonna be back and talk about the somewhat unpopular precious mirror samadhi, an old text, which is also about the same point that Sawaki Roshi is talking about, but maybe a little bit more difficult to relate, but I'm gonna try my best next week to make it as relatable as possible. So I wish you all a good week. Hope to see you again. Goodbye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.